Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Intellectual Radio, Voices of Change. Lift Him Up Sunday with your host, Jana and who? Dennis. We also have some beautiful ladies sitting between us, and these beautiful queens to my right are in the spirit. They're two dynamic storytellers, Emily Lansana and Zara Glenda Baker. These ladies are full of rhythm and engaging energy. They are masters in the art of synthesizing poetry, music,
All right.
and storytelling.
That's it.
You know, Jesus told stories and parables. He pulled spiritual truth from everyday life. Jesus told stories and chose symbols from the local culture, such as sheep, sowing, harvesting, and fishing, to convey his message. Jesus' stories and the questions he asked revealed deep truths to his audience. Jesus often repeated important themes. The stories he told and the life and actions of Jesus himself were told and retold. Now, don't that sound a bit familiar?
It sure does.
When we talk about their storytellings,
That's it.
when you talk about somebody walking in their purpose, being that example, doing as he's doing, this is my guest.
Without stories, I met what people call, I call her Mama Zara. She don't like me to call that, but I have to give
Why
her
you call her
respect.
Mama Zara?
Mama Zara, because a lot of the kids call her that.
Okay.
We met about 3 months ago, and you know how God put people in your life. I mean, we
Yes.
just like, bam, just gelled. We gelled like glue, and the rest is history. We've been working together, and it's amazing. We just fell in love.
Yeah.
It just,
Because you've been
Damn.
talking about it, and you said when we started this, we just started this about a month or two ago.
yes.
And you said, Jan, there's somebody we got to have on here.
Yeah, hell.
I said,
Yep.
okay, what do they do? Because we Voices of Change, we focus on empowering and uplifting and encouraging. And he said, they write in line. They're right.
Right in
I
line
said,
with
who
us.
are they? So he was telling me all about you, and I didn't know anything about you. So as I ask my questions as we go on, don't feel that. But
All right.
this is the first time me meeting you. I have looked at YouTube, and I did see some of the stuff you had on YouTube. Matter of fact, I was telling her about the beans, greens, yams. Anyway. And I said, man, but storytelling, as I was telling you earlier today, my dad, he was a storyteller. And I feel bad because I don't storytell. You know how he told all those stories about
Really?
back in the deep. Oh, do I talk a lot? Oh, back in the deep South and all that. But I wish I had that legacy, or that. I just think it should keep going. It should keep going, and that's some of the things that's missing from some of the young people now.
Yes, they need to hear that. Yes.
They really need to know, and they need to hear. Lack of knowledge, what that has.
Well, I'm just going to interject and say that Emily teaches storytelling, and so you are in the right place. If you are really interested in knowing more about storytelling, Emily has
She didn't tell me
classes
that.
she
All right.
teaches.
Emily's
She-
holding back on us, Jan.
Wait, and I've been sitting up here talking to her about this head wrap, and I gotta say, okay, I love. Dennis knows, everybody knows. I love the African
What did I tell you,
garb,
Jan?
and I
Look,
love.
look,
I
what did I tell
know.
you? Okay.
Okay, so where do you purchase it somewhere at a shop or?
Well, actually, I purchased the fabric at a shop, and I like to sew. So I make a lot of
Oh,
my
you
clothes.
sew. Oh, okay, that's good to know. You sew for? Do you sew for other people? Or you just sew for? 'Cause
A
some
little
people.
bit.
Oh,
Sometimes it takes me a little longer than people want, so I tend to work better with a
Close
a
friends.
timeline. Like Emily and I'll make clothes for us to perform in.
mhm.
So I have a target date that I know it needs to be ready for us to hit the stage.
Okay.
Jan, we got to
And
hook
what
up.
about the head wraps? Because I want my nose pierced. I know I done got old now,
Look,
right?
look,
But I
yeah,
wanted
right
it done when
there.
I was young. I
Right.
always wanted it done. I'm not talking about the things like what do they call
Yeah.
this. I'm just a stone.
Yeah, right.
I've always wanted a stone, and I love the head wraps.
Mhm.
And someone told me they're gonna show me. Well,
They're
that's,
gonna-
yeah, that's probably a downhill battle, but
No.
oh
it's
yeah,
not. It's
You
I'm
got
not
it.
creative, believe me.
You've got it.
Yeah, it just takes time and experimentation and your own curiosity because it's always different.
Mhm.
Every time I tie my head wrap, it's different.
Okay.
So it's like just trusting that whatever you do is the best thing for that day.
trusting. Didn't they talk about in Church Today faith?
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm going to have faith that I can do this.
That's right. Yeah.
That's it.
I always start out with the scripture. For today, I wanted to kind of focus on storytelling. And, the Bible talks about storytelling all the time. And this one scripture, it again amplifies what you guys do. It's from Joel 1, chapter 3. It says, it's short. It says, tell your children about it and let your children tell their children and their children the next generation. And that to me is what it's all about. Just keeping it going, keeping it going, keeping it going. So I'm going to tell everyone like me, because I didn't know anything about In the Spirit. So I'm going to give a brief bio. Their bio is about 6 pages, but I condensed it to 2 paragraphs. Because
and how many?
they perform everywhere. I'm like,
They've been, yes.
I'm looking at that like, are you serious? I mean, and you can talk about that when when we interview, and you can tell us about. So what we're going to do today, we're going to interview you, and then maybe we'll be graced with your presence doing something for us out in
Little
the.
story challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'd love
Okay,
Love
so
to.
please watch the time, because
Okay.
I get carried away sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, so In the Spirit. Over 20 years ago, storyteller Emily Lansana and vocalist Zara Glenda Baker came together to form performance duo In the Spirit. Based in Chicago, they have developed an extensive repertoire of stories that carry their audiences on enthralling journeys. Each performance celebrates the power of the word to connect, uplift, and transform. They have been recognized for their commitment to community and their vision for change. They have worked with people of all ages, faiths, and cultures, from homeless shelters to universities. In each place, they remain focused on the belief that creative expression can be an important vehicle for transformation. Oh, is that powerful for me?
All right.
That's In the Spirit. Now we're going to start with the questions. Now these are questions I don't know anything about you. So the audience, if you have any questions, if you're so inclined, and I know, some of you are shy, you can call us at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. And talk to these queens. Dennis, you can start off with the questions.
First one, are you guys from Chicago area?
Well, actually, I was born in Louisiana. And
What part of Louisiana?
Yeah, Louisiana.
I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Gumbo Jan.
I know gumbo.
All right. From the central part near
Okay.
Alexandria, a little tiny town called Colfax.
Okay.
Louisiana.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, Louisiana.
Yeah. So, but I left early and ended up being adopted by my uncle and raised in Lafayette, Indiana.
Indiana. Who's your mama? No.
You know that place?
I'm from Indiana.
Which part?
Michigan City.
Michigan
Yeah,
City.
yeah.
Okay, we used to come to Michigan City to the water, to the beach.
Yeah, the beach. Yeah, they had a beautiful
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah,
They had a park.
that
When
was-
I was young, they had a park. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we used to. The church would organize like whole busloads of people to come up, and that was.
So you were raised in West Lafayette, Indiana.
Lafayette.
Oh, Lafayette. I think about
Lafayette.
Purdue. Okay,
Right.
Lafayette. Was it black people there? No, I'm sorry.
Because you know
Ask
what?
that.
I'm actually thinking about writing some stories about black people in small towns because
Okay.
Lafayette actually did have, because of redlining, the way that there were only certain areas that black people could live, then we had a black community that was very strong.
Really?
And we had 3 churches. We had a Baptist church, Methodist church, and Apostolic church, and one bar. And
everything you need.
We had- Right. And then I moved to Chicago in the 80s and
Okay.
been here ever since.
Emily, are you from Chicago?
No, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. But I've been in Chicago for more than 30 years, so
Okay.
I think I can claim it.
All
Yes.
right. All right.
Yes.
After 30 years, you
Yes.
claim Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What is your background? I know you sing because I've been listening to
Oh,
you
yes.
too.
Mhm.
And you, Emily, I saw her with these kids.
I
I'm
haven't seen
telling
Emily
you.
there, Jen, but I got to catch it.
You got
Emily,
you
I got
got
to
it.
catch her.
You want to
Okay.
be a child again because she's talking to him and she's so engaging and
Okay.
she's. What is your background?
So I grew up in a family where my mother believed kids should perform. So my brother and sister were both musicians, and the music didn't quite catch on for me. So they started giving me poems to say, because after church, my mother wanted people to come by the house and wanted to say, see what my kids could do. And so I started learning to perform, and I went to college and majored in theater, and I moved to Chicago because I wanted to be an actress. And I did theater, I did industrial film, I'd had a couple tiny parts in films. And what I felt was that as a young Black actress, that I didn't feel that there were enough opportunities where I could make a decision about what kind of art I wanted to put out into the world. And so I was trying to think about what I wanted to do when I was working at a bookstore. And it just so happened that this wonderful young woman came into the bookstore and said, I'm teaching a residency on African American music. And I think it would help students connect with the music more if they had stories to go with the music. She said, could you help me find stories that might connect to the music? And I said, I'd love to. And she said, by the way, I'm going to be singing to open for a concert of a professional storyteller whose name is Jackie Torrance. And she said, you should come to the concert. And I went to that concert and it changed my life. I sat there in the audience and I said, that is what I want to do. I want to be a storyteller.
Found your purpose, just like that.
Absolutely. And what I loved about it was, as a storyteller, I could decide what kind of stories I wanted to put out in the world and what kind of places I wanted to tell them. And it felt very empowering. And so that's been my journey. So I teach storytelling, perform storytelling. I also work as an arts administrator at University of Chicago.
Oh, okay. Gee, you're a busy lady.
Wow. Now, when you were 16,
I didn't hear about Zara, did I?
Oh, Zara. Oh, okay. Zara.
Okay, so I was raised in the church. One of the pivotal moments in my life was when I was going to church in Lafayette. Initially, I was feeling isolated and really broken by some of the tragedy that had happened that had caused my family to be split up and us to be raised by different relatives. So my moving to Indiana was traumatic, and I didn't know anybody. But when I went to church and they started singing "This Little Light of Mine" or the spiritual songs that I recognized that my grandmother sang when I would go to church with her in Louisiana, something in me woke up.
All right.
And I knew that this is the place that I call home. I can't give it an address like other people, but music, the love of music, and in particular spirituals, are the place that really awakened something in me. And then later on, when I went to college at Butler University, and I was told that I should basically abandon the style of singing that I had been raised in and only sing these classical songs and only sing what was written in the way that they wanted it. Some part of me, I shut down. I started feeling like I couldn't sing, like I was a failure, like something in me broke. And it wasn't until a few years after that when I started studying Black history and realizing that those songs that I had sung at church were not just personal to me, they were actually part of the canon of African American music that had led to our survival.
That our kids need to know and hear about.
Right.
Yes.
Right. They were the tools of our survival, and that I wanted to create so when I was asked by the Old Town School of Folk Music to create a program to teach young children in elementary schools about African American music, then that was the approach that I wanted to take to validate our music for what it does for us, and actually not have it be something that an either or. Like all of the musical elements are inside of African and African American music. Like it was there before it was written down. It was sung before it was written down. It was the heartbeat, before anybody decided to figure out how to notate it and then
Right.
come back and say, I want you to sing it this way. I wanted to get it into the heart of it.
Did you also talk to the kids about the messaging in the music, particularly like during slavery and during the underground? Oh, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And that
Oh,
was
wow.
that was part of. So after Emily got her training as a storyteller, she came back, and I was about ready to start my residency, and that's when she asked me if she could try out her stories with young people, and so it was like, well, why don't you come to class with me? And actually, by the way, I'm working on spirituals this week from slavery. So then she chose to find stories that would accompany that. So we started, combining those two things together.
Very good.
Wow. When you were 16, what did you expect to do as a profession?
Oh,
Emily?
Emily.
Emily?
Wow.
It's always interesting to hear about how people felt when they were
Mhm.
young and
Mhm.
where they're at now.
So I was very, very close to my father when I was growing up. And my father was an incredible man. He read all the time. He pushed us very hard. And so he was the kind of man who I remember coming home with a C in math and a B in French. And he said, okay, I'll take the C in math because math has always been hard for you. And I think that, you could
Right.
be trying your best, but I will not take a B in French because I had won a national French contest when I
Wow.
was younger. And he was like, you're up there playing around with that. And I'm not, I will accept nothing less than your best. And so on the day before my 16th birthday, my father passed away. So when you say 16, that stands out for me. And I think for me, there were a couple things that were significant. I always thought that I would perform. That I had definitely found, a heart in that, but kind of wild story. My father always said that he wanted me to go to Yale. And I don't know why. He just said my baby girl's going to grow up and go to Yale. And I had no interest in going to Yale at all. And so when my father passed away, my sister said, well, that's what daddy wanted. So if you don't fill out the application, I'm going to do it for you. And I knew she would. So I was like, I'm just going to do this and put it away. But I wanted to go to acting school. And so I was busy doing all my auditions. And then I got into Yale. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to acting school. And one of the alumni contacted my mother and said, this is a really important opportunity and you should maybe have her go and visit. And so I went to visit and I met with the head of theater department. And he said to me, if you want to be an actress, you'll always have the opportunity to be an actress. If you decide to come here, you're going to learn how to think. And it will challenge you and push you. And one thing that I was surprised about was that there were lots of Black people in New Haven, which I had not expected. Another thing that surprised me was that there were so many opportunities for me to learn about so many different things. I had some actually wonderful Black professors. I got to study with Bell Hooks. I got to study with Cornel West. I got to study with a lot of people. And I feel like that was kind of like my father, like walking with me. So at 16, I think if you'd asked me, I would have said I want to be in the movies. And I'm not in the movies, but I am telling stories, and I'm grateful for that.
And I'm so glad you went to Yale.
Thank you.
Great opportunity.
Zara?
Oh, 16 in Lafayette, Indiana.
In Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, I knew that music the singing was what I wanted to do. I just wasn't sure how it was going to happen. I wasn't sure, was it going to be like Motown, Diana Ross? It was like Michael Jackson. The Jackson 5 were also from Indiana, and Michael and I were the same age. So, there was some competition there. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen. But there was also a part of me that was very shy and insecure and not quite sure how to navigate the world. So I wasn't sure if I was just going to stay in Lafayette and work at State Farm.
Everyone does that there.
Right, or figure out how to get out. And it actually was my choir. I was in a choir in high school, my senior year, and it was actually that teacher that was asking me what I planned to do, and because I wasn't clear, she was like, "I want you to get dressed, and Tuesday, and we're going to go for a ride to Indianapolis." And she drove me over to Indianapolis and had me sing for her voice teacher, and he accepted me immediately. So I was, that's how I got to Butler. So it's like you just never know what angels are going to show up to help guide your direction. So.
And it just kind of highlights how important music is. Dennis' ministry is music, as well as not only performing it. He coaches and teaches. And, I hope this kind of tells you and let you know how important what you do is. I hope it does.
All right.
I just have to say, Dennis is, what a spirit. What grace walks with him. I'm just so honored to be able to work with him. We work for an organization that provides music to shelters and people in recovery, and it's just it's magical how the two of us are able to work together and find the joy and bring the joy to people. So
and the good part about us, nobody's trying to outshine or try to outdo.
And that's typically how music is. People are
you
competing,
We just fall in, and
Yeah.
I have an idea. I just hop in, she hop in, and it just flows.
yeah.
So a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Where did you guys get the? Where did you decide to form the Spirit?
So when she invited me to hear this concert and then to work with her in the classroom, we were rehearsing these stories, and it might be, okay, we're going to teach about Harriet Tubman this week, and we're going to transform.
Excuse me. Were you teachers? I mean, were you in a school?
What would be sort of teaching artists at the
Teaching
school.
artists,
So
okay.
the principal invited.
Artist in residence. So we
Okay.
would have maybe like every Wednesday we would go to a school in Cabrini Green and work all day with K through 8th graders.
Oh, that's okay.
So for example, we'd say, okay, we're going to teach Harriet Tubman this week, and we would say we're going to make the classroom into the Underground Railroad. So we're going to, sing the songs, and we're going to crawl on the desks, and we're just going to try to help them have this experience.
Right.
And so we were rehearsing, and my roommate at the time said, "Well, when are you all going to do that out somewhere where adults can hear you?" And I was like, "You think adults want to hear this?" And she was like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely."
Yeah.
And
It's like,
so-
I wish I'd been in that school that did something.
So we found a coffee shop in the neighborhood and said, "Hey, could we have Sunday afternoon to share what we do?" And people started coming, and people started hearing about what we do and invited us to do other things. So
Right.
Then
That's
we
how-
had to come up with the name and the logo and all the
Yeah,
that goes
so,
with it.
a brand. So
it was definitely in the spirit.
Mhm.
I watched 2 things of theirs on YouTube. Hey, you guys have a big following, and I love that. I watched it. I'm like, wow. Our kids are not exposed to that because they think everything is hip hop, rap, and we need to know, like you said, about our origin. Where does music come from?
Yeah.
Why did they write these songs? What is the
Yeah.
meaning of them? They don't get that. So
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you.
What they're doing, it's fabulous.
Yes.
And I also watch it on YouTube, and I keep talking about this. It just made me feel more childlike because you were doing it
Yep.
for kids, and they were all in the audience, out jumping up and down, and it was interactive.
Mhm.
You were having them do things, and
Mhm.
I loved it. And you do it for your audiences, so you have all different levels of audiences. You have kids, you have adults, you have. Do you go to organizations too?
Oh, yes. Yes. We actually belong to the National Association of Black Storytellers. So,
There's a national organization of
It
Black
is.
storytellers.
yes.
And
yes.
so, sort of similar to a fraternity or a sorority, there are different affiliates in different areas. So there's a Chicago chapter called ASHE, the Chicago Association of Black Storytellers. So we're part of that organization. And we're invited into a lot of different settings to do storytelling. We've been invited to do sort of, as you might expect, like Black History Month at a school, but also we've been invited to do a baby shower or a wedding, different rituals that are community events. We've been invited to, I did a Kwanzaa for Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're invited to a lot of different kind of spaces where people think of storytelling as an opportunity to connect with the culture. We had the wonderful opportunity during the pandemic to do a virtual performance for the American Library Association. So it's been a blessing to adapt stories. And one of the things that we learned, I think, because so much of the repertoire that we developed initially started being done at schools, it means that because we were working with K through 8, sort of, we might go in saying, this is a story that's for the older kids, and we do it. And then they were so interested, so I would say, well, maybe let's try it with the 3rd grade and see how that goes. And we do it, and it would work. And it's somehow a story that we didn't think was going to go all the way down to kindergarten would, or vice versa, that a story that we would think this is just a story for little ones would also. So there are a lot of stories where the message is universal.
Excellent. So both of you had career tracks. You were on the career track singing, and you were on the career track to be an actress. Do you still do theater, by the way?
I don't do much theater. I love theater, and I've been invited to do a couple of readings, but I still do all different kinds of performance. So traditional storytelling, I sometimes am directing pieces. I've done coaching, so a lot of different approaches to performance.
So the question is, before you started in the spirit, what were you individually doing?
I was individually, I was doing theater. And
theater
I was,
okay.
I was working at a bookstore and trying to decide.
I hate that you gave it up, because there's so many theatrical opportunities in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still very
well. You're in it.
theater.
You are in it, and you're coaching, and you're doing. But be quiet. You know what?
I'm still performing all the time.
You are.
I am grateful for that, and I think last year I had a really wonderful experience where I received a grant to do a project where one of the things I've been interested in is how does storytelling translate to other art forms? So I know Zara can tell stories through music, but what happens if you're doing it through dance or through painting? And so I was able to invite a group of artists who all practice different art forms, hip hop, theater, poetry, graffiti artist, dance maker. And we all did a workshop together on exploring our personal stories. And then everyone was given the chance to come back and tell your story however you would like to tell it. And that was really exciting to see, because I think that everybody is telling stories, and that it can take a lot of different forms. But in that case, it was inspiring for me to see we could all start from, what's the story that I want to tell about my journey, and to see what happens. Mm-hmm.
And then
you being a singer, do you still sing, first of all?
Jan, she plays the ukulele. You have to hear her and sing, Jan.
Okay, so I'm ignorant. The ukulele. I think about Tiny Tim. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes.
Is that the ukulele? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she can play it, Jan.
But it's a baritone ukulele, so it's a little lower. The one that Tiny Tim.
Yeah, it was high. Yeah.
Higher. This is a little bit.
Did you bring it with you?
No, I did not. Dennis is
sounds good, Jan. You get to hear
really?
It. Yes. Yes.
I'm a newbie with it. I feel Jan,
Jen, listen to me. She can do it. You know I'm here.
I was hoping she brought it then, so I
could
hear
it. I didn't bring it.
But do you still sing spirituals? No,
yes.
You do. You still sing spirituals.
Yes. But I wanted to piggyback on Emily talking about story just for a minute. I want to validate storytelling as an art form, because so many times when we read about filmmakers or other artists, they talk about the story being the root of where they start, but we seldom um, validate the storyteller, the person
All
who
right.
is that has crafted the story from their own um, body of language, I'll say. And I feel like that's one of the things that Emily advocates the most in the time that I've known her, is making sure that teachers are exposed to storytelling. That we both used to work for ETA, Creative Arts
Mm.
Foundation, for a while, and she started a program there where in partnership with CPS, where teachers could sign up and be exposed to a variety of storytellers, training them in different um, styles of storytelling. So I just want to say that that it's a powerful thing to know and recognize.
So prior to you joining within the spirit, you were singing. You were
Yeah,
okay
I was and still continue to.
to sing.
Yeah, I also um, sing in jazz bands and jazz,
I
more
thought so. You
more
have
improvisational jazz bands than I mean, jazz is a wide
it's wide. Yeah,
is wide as
yeah.
well, but I work with a lot of creative artists who kind of, you just show up
And just
and do what's on your heart in that moment. So I've been doing that for a while, and um, so along the same track as um, I was singing, when I mean, our union is just one of many things that we both do. I'll say that. Yeah.
okay.
So
Okay.
Your stories are stories about African American and African stories. Where did you get the content, and do you visit Africa?
Okay. So,
wait, she was wait. She
Wait
said
a minute.
we knew they
No.
got said.
So I have never had the blessing to travel to the continent of Africa, but I think that it is critically important that we share stories that come from our heritage. So we tell African and African American folk tales, stories from history, personal stories. And when I'm teaching, a lot of people will just focus on folk tales or personal stories. Personal stories have gotten to be very, very popular. There are lots of places you go out and hear, open mic night where people are doing
Right.
storytelling. But I think it's important to sort of honor the many different approaches. So whenever I'm teaching a class, we do personal story, then we do folk tales, we do history, and we also do ethnography. And in ethnography, we're looking at the idea that you can collect stories from people. And so people will have a project to go and interview people. And we were really blessed this fall with Zara did an interview with someone
Kathy.
Okay.
and
One of our coworkers.
and that beautiful story that came out of that interview was an opportunity for us to talk about history, but the story would have been different if we had just done the research and hadn't had someone's experience connected to it. So I think that one of the things when you think about the long trajectory of storytelling, they say that people will say in Africa that there's a tradition of a person who is a storyteller in the community, is a person who holds the history, holds the traditions, and that's passed down in a family to the next generation and the next generation. And all of that is kept orally. Sort of thousands of years of history are being passed down and passed down. And that person is a revered part of the community because that person is the keeper of the culture. Sometimes people will call that person a griot, or we also would call that person a jolly. And here in this country, we brought with us our stories. And in moments of challenge, we have continued to tell them because those stories have helped us to survive. Definitely.
And then with songs, it's very similar, where I believe we learn from everything. I do research on African American and African songs. Smithsonian Folkways has an amazing collection of songs from Africa, from different regions of Africa. Also, they also hold a lot of songs from our captivity through, and then I also do participate in workshops around the country where people are teaching. Like one of my mentors is a woman named Dr. Issei Barnwell, who is from a group called Sweet Honey in the Rock, and she led a workshop taking us through. Each day we would focus on a different time period of African American music. So actually, it started. The first day was songs from West Africa. The next day was songs that we sang while we were enslaved, with the hidden meanings in them. The next day, it was gospel music, the migration, and how the music changed from geographical uh, locations, like in the South where it was hot and moving slower, and then moving to the city where there was this up tempo and the gospel music happened, and then civil rights freedom songs, and then actually freedom songs in general, not just civil rights freedom songs, but songs that uh, spoke to our liberation. So that's kind of like the arc that I go through, and I basically like ask everybody, everybody I meet. It's like, you got any songs? What's your favorite song? What moves you? What's touched you? And so I'm constantly seeking and learning and gathering.
So one thing that I want to add about sort of like the art of storytelling, which I think is similar to the artistry of a musician, is the artistry of a storyteller is the way that that person tells the story. And so it should be that if you hear 5 different people tell the same story, that you hear 5 different stories, because the way that that person tells it is the art that they bring to it, the spirit that they bring to it.
Now hold it right there, Jen. What she just said, she's right. Like in music, you can take the same song, you can have 5 people play the same song, and you're gonna get, what I'm saying? You're gonna
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
so,
true.
yeah, so
That
I
is
got
true.
it. You're right.
That is true.
Yep.
And also the person, based on where they are,
Right.
you can hear this, even the same version of that song 5 different days, and it may hit you in a different way based on
right.
what you're going
Going
through
through.
in that moment.
And if you hear a storyteller and they do it exactly the same as the person before, like that's when we have a problem.
Okay.
Because it's really
That's
supposed to be
Right, yeah.
that you
Make it your
you
own.
make it your
Your
own.
own.
That's the art of it. That's the work of it.
Just like singing.
Yeah, exactly.
You never do it the same. It's how you feel, and it's all different.
Right.
I would love, Jen, when you to hear sample a storyteller. When you,
I think so too.
I love to hear something.
Maybe we
Yeah.
can get
I
something?
was thinking,
A sample?
Actually, I was thinking about Those Who Ride the Wind.
Okay,
which
that's
was
where
our
I was
first
too.
Story.
Yep.
The first story that, well, it's become one of our signature stories. So, Emily, do you want to talk about it?
Yes. So this is a story that we found in a book edited by Virginia Hamilton called The People Who Could Fly. And Zara came to me when we were working together and said, "Oh, we got to tell the people who could fly." And I was like, "I don't like that story." And I don't want to do that story. And the reason that I did like that story for the environment that we were working in is because we were working with these children. And I was thinking, they're going to say, "How come I can't fly out of the situation that I'm in?" And I also just had some challenges with the way the story started. And a lot of people have trouble finding an end to a story. That's not the problem for me. I have to find the right beginning.
Yeah, okay.
And if I could find the beginning, then I can tell. I'll have stacks of stories where one day I'm going to tell that when I find out how it starts. But
and
one-
then once she gets that beginning, it's like
It's gone. It's
and
gone.
so
Wings.
I was sitting in church once, and she kept coming back saying we have to tell the story. So I was sitting in church one Sunday. Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr. was preaching, and
Oh, I used to love him.
Yes.
Wow.
he started talking about how when we were held in captivity, there was a time where the drummers were coming and they were giving us a warning. And I was like, that's the beginning of the story. And that's how we were able to tell it.
You got
So-
the revelation sitting in church, listen to a sermon. It comes in all kind of ways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So is that the one that you're going to
We're
do?
gonna
Yes.
start.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to set up in the other room
Oh.
and set you up for doing it. So you,
Wonderful.
So you thought you would. Oh yeah. Oh, I was told by the other Winfrey, the one with all the tact. He said, "No, honey, you're gonna have to end this show after this." So I just want to tell you
Okay,
that we are so happy to have you here, and next week we will be back. Tell people how they can get in touch with you.
That's what I'm just ready to go.
Yeah, because we want the people to know how to get in touch with you.
You can find a performance duo in the spirit on Facebook, and also Storytelling by Emily on Facebook. That would be the best way to find us. A performance duo in the spirit or Storytelling by Emily on Facebook. And we look forward to talking with
And you
all.
perform at all different kind of platforms.
All different venues,
churches, schools,
community organizations.
community
And remember, our
organizations.
Yes, we will
Okay.
be having a performance on Sunday afternoon, March 5th. That is curated by a man named Scott Whitehair, and it'll be a small theater on the north side. So it will be a chance to see us do an hour of storytelling. So we hope that you all will come out and support. I will be teaching a class that will be on Zoom and available for anyone to take. If you go to Storytelling by Emily, the information will be posted in the next couple of days, and the class will be starting by the end of January. So we hope that you'll follow us.
All right.
And you wanted to say something, Dennis. You had something.
She said it. She said it.
Okay.
Good.
Perfect. Excellent. So we're going to meet you out there. Don't go anywhere. We got a few more minutes left. We're going to hear some storytelling
Yes.
from In the Spirit.
Oh, freedom over me, and before I'll be enslaved, I'll be buried in my grave and fly home to my God and be free, be free, be free, be free, be free.
They say that back in Africa, there were those who could ride the wind. But you know now, not everybody was blessed with the gift of being able to ride the wind. You see, because there were some who were blessed with the gift of being able to work the ground so that they could make things grow. And there were some who were able to take what came from the ground and mix it together to make medicines to heal people. And there were some who were blessed with the gift of music. And sometimes they use that gift to sing. But other times they use that gift to speak on drums. And they use those drums to speak to each other across communities and villages. Those drums could talk. But there came a time when those who were working the ground and those who were healing and those who were singing all across the villages, each was so busy doing their own work that they did not hear that the rhythm in the drum was changing. The drummers were trying to send a warning. The warning was that strangers were slipping into their villages. And in this way, strangers were able to come in and to divide them against each other and to capture them and carry them into captivity. And when they were captured, the gifts closed up inside of them. And they were carried across the water. And they landed on these shores, where they were forced to work on plantations. And as they were out there working in those fields, side by side, some of them started to sing.
Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Must be a God somewhere.
And on one plantation, there was this strong young man who got everyone to singing together while they were working. And the plantation owner saw what was happening. He saw how their spirits were changing. He sent an overseer out there to watch them. And the overseer saw that the power that young man was having, he called him over and he was about to start whipping him when there was this old woman way back in the corner of the field, and she looked over there at them about to whip that young man, and something just woke up inside of her, and she raised up her arms and and she called on the spirit and she called out that young man's name. And when she called his name, he walked up on the air and he rode the wind. Well, now everybody saw him go, but they did not understand how it was happening. Well, the overseer was out there first thing the next morning, just watching and watching. And about noon, when the sun was straight up in the sky and the heat was bearing down, there was a young woman working with her baby on her back. And the baby started to cry, so she stopped to comfort her baby. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. You'll be an angel by and by. Well, the overseer didn't like it that she had stopped working. He was about to start whipping her when that old woman just raised up her arms, called out that young woman's name. That young woman held her baby and they rode the wind. That old woman, she just got busy calling out the names of the ones who were blessed with that gift. And when she called them, they walked until they rode the wind. Well, the overseer, he finally laid eyes on that old woman and he realized she had something to do with it. He called her over. The plantation owner came over. They were about to kill her. When she looked at them and she said, "You can't stop me. I am filled with the Spirit." She said, "Don't you know? We are the ones who ride the wind." Oh! And she was gone. Now, the ones who were left, they started calling out to her because they didn't want to be left behind. But she couldn't take them because not everyone was given the gift of being able to ride the wind. You see, the ones who were left here were given the gift of being able to survive. Oh, Lord. Have mercy. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Oh, Lord, have mercy while I'm holding out. I believe I can hold out. I believe I can hold out. I believe I can hold out, hold out, hold out. And that's what we did. We held on to each other and we told stories and we dreamed dreams and we prayed prayers and we sang songs and we just kept on holding on and holding on. You see, this story about those people who could ride the wind is a very important story because it reminds us that no matter what situation we have been in, we have always made a way to be free. Thank you. That was wonderful. It makes me want to ride the wind. Okay.